Okay, Hiren Shukla, welcome to Autism Spa podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I've been reading up about all the great work that Ernst & Young is doing worldwide on neurodiversity, and I just found it fascinating. I learned about you're the co-founder of these neurodiversity centers. I think the sixth one just opened recently, right, in Boston. So I wanted to kind of first and foremost learn about how you got interested in this field, what you're doing at Ernst & Young, and then, of course, tell us more about the centers, which are happening all over the world, it seems like.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me today. So let me back up way back to my journey of belonging or a lack of belonging, in a sense of psychological safety. So I am the youngest of five that had a less than 2% chance of escaping genocide in Africa and getting a visa in the US. Now, we landed in New York, early 70s, with nothing but the shirts on our backs. And I learned very quickly that even though I look like an Indian, but some of the language I speak is Swahili, that I didn't fit in anywhere.
Right.
And this became a conundrum,
Right.
which is, am I an American? Am I an Indian? Am I African? And then I spent 5 years in India, and also the folks there will look at me and say, "You're Indian, but not quite Indian." And so I've always struggled with this sense of identity and belonging. About 7 years ago, I am part of EY's innovation umbrella. And we're sitting in the room thinking about how to build unique innovation capacity. How do you reimagine the future? How will you disrupt yourself before you're disrupted? How will you harness the power of creativity, complex problem solving, and emerging technology like artificial intelligence? And it just so happened, Sharar, that I had a conversation with one of my colleagues who has a son on the spectrum. Keep in mind, sir, I have no personal connection, experience, education around autism, Asperger's, dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, the whole umbrella of terms for which we know represents almost 20% of the world's population that is considered neurodivergent.
Wow.
Meaning there's an inherent cognitive difference. But Shara, I'm listening to my colleague, and she's describing her son and the autism community. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, are you telling me that under our noses, in the communities we sit in, is an entire population of people who inherently think differently, which means they have different ideas and different approaches to problems and solutions. And there's tremendous creativity and complex problems and this ability at times to hyper-focus in areas that particularly they enjoy. It was as if the clouds parted and a ray of sunlight came right down on my head.
Wow.
And the angels was, because I felt this was the intersection of purpose, of profit, of belonging, of diversity, equity, inclusion, and you wrap that all in an innovation umbrella. And all of a sudden, you now have the power to change not only the business world, but the communities we live in at the same time. This was the aha moment for how I got here.
Wow. Wow. It's really amazing just listening to how that aha moment came about because, you're right. As a parent of a special needs child, most parents know whether their kids are verbal or not, they have some special superpowers that most of us don't. And it's kind of a sense of self that is free of emotional, tie downs and distractions, and almost just a laser focus. It really shows you what the human mind is capable of when we're not so distracted and held back by our personalities or emotions. They have their own personalities. Believe me, my son is his own man. He's 13, 100%. I don't get to tell him too much of anything, but even in his nonverbal way, he is able to express himself and express his desires, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he enjoys. We communicate nonverbally in so many different ways. So he is most clearly an entire person. He just has a different way of communicating. And a lot of our journey with being on the autism parents is that we are adapting to their world, right? We are recognizing their abilities, which in many ways are superpowers. You see, kids on Asperger's or autism on 60 Minutes, and they're working for NASA. They got their PhDs, and there's a certain clarity of thought that comes with that. I want to say the next stage of human evolution, which is amazing. But as parents, you're not experiencing that. You're dealing with your loved one.
That's absolutely it. Yeah,
Right.
Shar, I've learned and been corrected from the community themselves, which is part of what I love. This is a very straightforward group of people.
Yes.
It's not about innuendo and nuance
Nope.
and sarcasm. This is say what you mean
Right.
what you say.
Right.
And I've learned that it isn't projecting the savant profile.
Right.
It is, how do we treat each person with a sense of dignity and respect that allows them to feel safe to say, I have a voice, even if it's a nonverbal voice.
Right.
I have ideas, I have interest, and I don't need to converge the way everybody else does from a communication perspective, from how I act and social cues. And what we found was something that should not be so amazing.
Right.
The moment a person has this psychological safety, the moment they can be themselves, they don't have to mask, they don't have to camouflage, that what you've actually done is you've unlocked the power of human potential that is dormant and resident in all of us, including neurotypicals like myself.
Right.
We say, boy, the greatest time of creativity was when I was 5 years old. What happened to me since I was 5? Where did it go to? And so we think that what we're learning from the neurodivergent community, the autism community, the dyslexia community, is actually all of these amazing traits to say, how do we apply this so that we can make the world a better place and be much more inclusive in that process? And frankly, this is evolving and blossoming in front of us in a magical way.
Wow. So, I mean, I've worked for organizations before, and Ernst & Young is a big company. There was this aha moment, and I'm just curious. You don't have to share it if you don't. So you went to the executives or whomever and say, listen, I got this great idea. We got to create this kind of global, network of neurodiverse centers all over the world. And here's what we're going to do about it. I mean, is that how it kind of unfolded? I'm curious how such a great thing took root, and there's now the 6th center that just opened in Boston. I mean, that's amazing.
So, Shard, this is a great question. I get this asked all the time. I didn't go with this big idea. I didn't tell anybody that the clouds parted and a ray of sunlight came on my head because I would get some strange looks. Right? But what I did was that I want to run a pilot.
Right.
And the pilot resonates with our brand. At EY, we say we're going to build a better working world.
Sure.
I can do that.
Right.
I can improve business process. I can drive creativity and build unique innovation capacity. And oh, by the way, the spillover effect. We're going to build value for not just shareholders, but stakeholders. These are people, communities. These are the families. These are our employees. These are our clients. And that will be the spillover effect to what we do. And so it was a very small, almost R&D laboratory environment thing where, frankly, we had no idea what we were doing. We were trying this out, which is clearly part of an innovation culture, is you try things out. I was really lucky that leadership at EY is so authentic to building a better working world that this became something that said, okay, here, we trust you. If you're going to try this, we know that we're working with individuals' lives. And so the only thing that we will tell you is failure is not an option. I was told this by one of my bosses at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But today, there are 11 centers in 5 countries
Oh, 11
around
now.
the world. Yeah,
Wow.
and
Wow.
we're finding that it isn't just the individuals we've hired. To be perfectly honest,
Yeah,
we estimate at EY 300,000 personnel around the world.
yeah.
We estimate 20,000 neurodivergent individuals
Wow.
already here, which
Yeah,
most government, academia, financial institutions, medicine, law, we say you already have neurodivergent individuals, are already there. How well are you acknowledging, supporting, and activating them? Because the more they feel a sense of belonging and
sure,
safety,
sure.
the more productive and amazing they're going to be to
Right,
you. So
right,
we see this as a real reflection on how organizations can build in the ESG agenda, environmental, social, and governance. This
right,
is the social pillar. This is how you build value,
right,
economic prosperity, and equity. And so it's now blossomed, Char. It wasn't
right,
this when I went to pitch it.
right,
It has literally evolved in front of us, and strategic partnerships, and everything we've done across government, academia, nonprofit, self-advocacy networks, the public.
right.
We now have found this is actually much more galvanizing than we would have ever thought.
Wow. No, I believe it. And, just like my social experiment with this podcast, I just thought just having a conversation with a few people, and next thing you know, you're touching lives, you're changing lives. People reach out to me, choked up, moved by a conversation, and their insights, just their horizons broadened so much. Saying that I didn't know this about autism. I didn't know this about space. I didn't know this about labels or their dignity. I mean, it's the stuff that we talk about on this platform. Just amazing. Now, 20,000 out of 300,000. Obviously, no one takes a test that says, "Are you, are you?" We're estimating, guesstimating. How? I mean, what happens in these centers? You said 11. Are there how many in the U.S.?
So 6 in the US.
6 in the okay, right.
Yes.
The rest of the globe, UK, Canada, elsewhere. So what is happening in these centers right now?
Yeah. So we have innovation centers of excellence all across EY.
Right.
This is one such innovation hub. And this is where we get the true aspect of neurodiversity. And when we say that, neurodiversity includes everyone in the world. It's all thinking styles. So
Right.
we say, what happens when you deliberately orchestrate high performance teams that are meshed with neurodivergent and neurotypical employees?
Right.
And so product, process, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cybersecurity, data analytics, and data science, all of the most challenging areas that are going to derive value for both the business and community. Our centers and our team members are involved in these projects. And so they're really bringing this component of diversity that extends well beyond race, gender, color, sexual orientation. It
Sure.
goes much further than that. It's actually the true definition of intersectionality, because
Right.
in the neurodivergent community, you find everybody.
Right.
So the centers are really bringing a new solution and execution to our clients. And frankly, it's providing tremendous, not only competitive advantage, but relationship value, because it's providing a level of connection that we can have with our
Right.
community and our clients that are extending well beyond any transaction we would ever do.
Wow. Do you find that technology companies or manufacturing or I want to say, a certain type of workflow process more naturally is a cultivating environment for this type of innovation, or is it applicable or generalizable to any industry?
What a great question, Chara. Applicable across every industry. We've
Okay.
already worked consumer products, financial services, telecommunications, agricultural. We said,
Yeah.
when we think about the jobs and the profiles for the skills and the competencies required in the future, creativity, complex problem solving, analytical thinking, data and technology, all of these are inherent and embedded, whether you're a marketing and sales executive, whether you're an HR professional, whether you sit in finance, we say, oh my God, this is applicable everywhere. And so hence, I think what we're finding is our team members are extremely skilled in multiple areas and interest. We're trying to align them to where they have strong interest in. But I think that there is a default perception at times that, for example, autistic individuals are really good for a 10-step process that they'll do over and over again.
Right.
We find the creativity of them and our team members that are dyslexic or ADHD. You combine this brainstorming and creativity. Oh my God! All of a sudden, you now have a powerful engine.
Wow. Wow. So, do internal candidates or, people that work within the empire of 300,000, souls all around the world, do they apply to be in the center? Do they just kind of go to, how do they get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we built the centers as an entry point to access this unique population that are unemployed to 85% or underemployed around the world.
Okay.
We realized at the end of the day, it's really full integration across all of EY that we're looking for. So interesting enough, Shire, we've had team members who've come in through our COE and then have spun out and moved to different parts of EY.
Ah, I see.
So they have the same career growth, progression, and mobility that anybody else should have. Same pay, same benefits, all of that.
Right.
We also had, to your point, individuals that were already here at EY say, I'm struggling a little bit. Maybe I need to be in the center. But in many cases, part of what we're doing is we're starting through the lens of universal design.
Right.
Everything from sourcing and recruiting to ongoing support of our employees and their well-being, whether it be mental health or it's our physical programs. But how do we basically distribute and disseminate this ability to support EY employees wherever they are in the world? And so we will see our COEs today as these hubs attracting this unique strategic workforce component for us. But at the end of the day, we recognize and see that EY and other organizations already have neurodivergent employees. Sure. How are we going to better support them? And that is the unique conversation that is now triggered and spun off from all the great work that we've been doing.
Wow. Do you find other companies are coming to you to kind of, what's your secret, and try to see if they can create their own innovation centers based on your model? Or obviously your clients, you serve your clients. That's obviously the starting point, right?
Yeah, Shar, when we say build a better working world, we literally mean for everybody.
For everybody.
We realize this population, almost 20% of the world's population at 85% plus unemployment or underemployment.
Right.
EY is not going to hire all of them anyway. So we see this as a tremendous collaboration opportunity. Right. This is where we want government to be pulled in. We want academia to be pulled in. We want other big business. And particularly we focus on Fortune 500 or some of these high growth middle market companies where we say, you have a business need, you have a great culture, and frankly, you have the ability and bandwidth to use your voice to make a difference. And so being a consulting and professional services firm, we've literally said, we're going to take this to the market. We're going to empower and engage and energize other companies because we need them. We need them on this journey with us.
Right. Wow. Wow. I think we could talk all day, but it's as a parent, it's obviously heartwarming to know that the world is shaping and adjusting to someone like my son. I mean, he may not, ever be an accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant, but it's really important, I think, for parents, for any parent to know that their child is being accepted by the world. They don't have to be autistic. They don't have to be special needs. They could be tall, short. They have all kinds of other challenges, right? But with autism and special needs comes a special set of challenges that most people that aren't embedded in it would know or stay away from. And even, I'll say, I talked with a very smart individual on the spectrum who was looking for a job. And this person said, don't mention that I'm autistic because I don't want that to hurt my job chances. So there is a conversation in the community, like any other kind of challenging community, that if I raise my hand and announce myself, that the world will judge me, and I can't get the type of job that, as you're describing, you're talking about the opposite. You're helping special needs people accelerate their career growth and realize their full potential, whereas some within the community are still fearful of that label.
Yeah.
And I wonder what.
Sure. We know that society has not done a good job with the reinforced negative experiences. Probably, as I've heard from individuals I've interacted, it started at a young age,
right?
Started with school and academia. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to reframe what is only viewed as a disability,
right?
More of what does this individual, to your point, tall, short, black, brown, neurodivergent, neurotypical, what does that individual have to offer? And how do we allow them to be in the best supportive space? And I think you're absolutely right, where though that individual you spoke to who said, don't mention that I'm autistic, the masking and the camouflaging, I hear, puts a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety and could cause depression. And we say, wow, at the end of the day, we say in the workplace, bring your whole self to work.
Right.
Well, bring your whole self to work really means
the whole thing. Yeah.
It means all of it.
So do you find organizationally that, let's say if you're judging we all work in organizations, we're familiar with organizational work performance and rewards and promotion and raises and performance development programs, whatever we call it in different organizations. Do folks that go through your program have a different set of performance goals than, let's say, their typical counterparts?
In fact, they don't have a different set of goals. What they have done in our case is they've helped us look at metrics and everything, starting with the job description.
Right.
Shara, today you'd look at a job description and the kitchen sink is in there. You have to be a great data scientist and you have to be great at sales. And we say, this makes no sense at all, right?
Yeah, yes.
And what we love about the neurodivergent community is they're the only ones that tell the emperor they aren't wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
Which means
that's right.
They say, this doesn't make any sense. And we look at it, we're like, oh, you're right. It doesn't. And so for us is being very focused and sharpening the pencil on what are those metrics that we're looking for if you're operating in X space or Y space or Z space. But frankly, it's not different than what we look for any other EY professional around the world to do. It is cognizant of the support that these individuals need to say, boy, when you provide that support, which we know EY and companies around the world are committed to, particularly through the pandemic, the well-being of our employees.
Right.
The more we put into that, frankly, the more we get out of it. So there's a real win-win for all of us here. Wow,
Hiren, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's rare that I get shocked and awed. I try to play it pretty cool, but man, this is amazing stuff. I'm so gratified and honored to not only meet you, but to learn of what your company is doing really for the world. And I think that is a pretty awesome thing. I seek out, I see different neurodiverse coordinators in companies, and, it seems like individuals, they haven't quite thrown themselves into it as much, and they certainly haven't led the industry the way it looks like, EY is leading the industry with these centers. And I think it's just a ray of hope in corporate America that, neurodiverse people have a home, they're welcome. And in fact, you'll help them accelerate in a job so they feel like they belong. I think I think neurotypical people may need the same thing. We often may not get categorized, but even typical people say, you know what, I don't know if I belong here. I think I belong somewhere else, and that's a different conversation.
No,
But
I agree. But sure, thank you for having me. I would say one last thing is,
sure,
this word transformation is used a lot, right? From
right.
a business perspective, from an organizational perspective, digital workforce. This is a transformation of lives and community. You have the power to do all of this. I would say, to the extent anyone listening to this podcast wants more information, wants to get engaged, wants to learn about it, or knows of somebody, we are very happy to help out, because making the world a better place takes all of us to do this. So thank you, though, for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making the world a better place, Hiren. Thank you.
Thank you.